All right. Well, we have one more segment that I want to cover tonight. I want to talk a little bit about drafting and sealed strategies. Originally, I wanted to rank all the cards, but after talking with Alex and stuff like that, that's just crazy. Like, we're not going to rank cards now. Like, that's a lot of extra work, I think, for its value. But Alex was kind enough to put our thoughts together and to kind of put the category of each of the cards where we feel they fit into each of the categories. I won't lie and tell you we're going to go through every single category because we're not going to go through every category detail. We are going to highlight some of the good stuff. We're going to make our document public so that you have the ability to get to the document. And we're going to focus a little bit on, different strategy setups for drafting and for sealed tournaments. With that being said, welcome to our Academy training segment. All right, folks, welcome back to our Academy training segment. Tonight, we're going to be talking about draft and sealed strategy, understanding how to play draft and sealed. We're going to go through all the rules, but we are going to go through kind of some strategy tips, theories, things that we feel are good, mentions, that things that you can actually take home and use with you. The reason we're doing this so close to set 2 is because we wanted to focus things a little bit more directly. Because we got into the SWU game a little bit late, right? And then B, because we wanted to focus specifically on Shadows of the Galaxy. And I haven't decided we might do this for every set. I don't know yet. I guess we will kind of see like some of the new synergy things that kind of come out for each of the different sets. If we start seeing a lot of new strategy lines that are going to present themselves, then I think we're going to have to redo the video every set. But for now, we're doing our very first draft and sealed strategy video. So if you don't know what draft and strategy or draft and sealed are, so essentially you have the two different formats, and then you have a third format that's kind of an offshoot, but they both all focus essentially on taking a limited pool of cards and not letting you pre-build any of your stuff. So with draft, you essentially get 3 packs. You take your 3 packs, you keep one of the leaders, pass the other leaders around until you get back to your 3 leaders. And then you do the same with each of your packs. You take 1 card, pass your pack around, and everybody gets 1 card out of the pack until it's gone. And you do that 3 times. Then you build your deck with it, however you want to, which with whatever leader you want. Sealed is a little bit different, but similar. You don't pass your packs, but you get 6 packs, and you get to you build your own deck with that very limited pool of 6 packs of cards. I tried to play sealed with 3 packs. It does not work. So you all know, I tried very hard. It doesn't work. It's not fun. Don't do it. Well, we're trying to find like an alternative format, right? Like for having limited like packs that we can play with locally, but no, it does not work. I tried it at home. I couldn't get a deck to work, and don't do it. Pre-release is kind of that offshoot. That's like your third variant. That's basically the same thing. The only difference between that and sealed is you get 2 promo leaders for whatever the set is. That is literally the only difference. So it kind of gives you a little bit more options, makes it a little bit easier, more friendly, because you know ahead of time what the 2 leaders are. So for Shadows of the Galaxy, we get Moff Gideon and Mando, which we both talked about. If you watch our earlier segment that we did where we ranked the leaders, we talked a little bit about that. So my first kind of point is you need to understand what your leader's ability are and what their stat lines are. And so, for example, we talked originally about Afra. Afra is a 2/5, right? She has a very limited stat line, and she has a very limited leader ability as well. So she is a little bit harder to play in these formats. Alex might consider it differently. I did try Thrawn in a draft format. It did not work very well. It was fun. I played a Thrawn control without vigilance or much else. It was fun. I didn't win any games at all, but I did anger my opponents because because their decks aren't built to do a lot. I could just remove a lot of their units, and like that's what we played. Is here goes Tanner removing units. I'm not doing any damage to your base. But
honestly, if I was playing a Thrawn deck, I'd probably just try to build my opponent out and win on that. Just shove like 40 cards in that deck and just be like, we're extending this game out, and we're going to be so unfun and go to time every round.
It's just fair. So understand, anyway, long story short is understand what your leader ability does and kind of what your stat lines are. The second point, Alex is very familiar with, because when I proposed the segment 2 weeks ago, Alex kind of like half agreed. And then when I told him about it this week, he said, "Oh, you mean I got to go read all the new damn cards, Chris?" And I said, "Yes, you do. You need to understand what the cards are so that we know and can educate ourselves before we actually have to do a podcast about it." But it's the same theory. You don't want to go into a draft or sealed and not know what things do. I will say in pre-release, I was a lot nicer, and they are decent in these formats because you can sub cards out not halfway through your game, but the next round. So if you're not playing for anything but playing for fun, then that makes it a little bit easier. The other one is understanding, reviewing the synergy of the cards and themselves and the leaders. Again, Cad Bane's a great example. With Cad Bane, he likes Underworld cards. So if you get a bunch of Underworld cards and you get a Cad Bane leader, do you make a Cad Bane deck? Alex would say, only Chris if you really want to. And then he would pick Afra.
It really depends on the number of Underworld cards. But also not pick an Afra draft or sealed.
You could just put 50 cards in your deck there, Alex, and then just mill your own self.
Yeah, look at all the colors in my deck.
The next one is common cards are king and decks need them to win. And I say that not because they really are king, but in these limited formats, you kind of have to work towards what are your commons, because your commons are going to have the different abilities on them. They're going to have the desire to say, hey, look at me. I have, this feature that's a 2/3, or I'm a 3 cost that has a shield on me. And you want to look at those because common cards can help make a good basis for your deck. The next one is follow the deck building ratios of events, upgrades, and units. So I'm going to ask Alex a question because I think it's important. Do you feel that there's different ratios inside of sealed and draft than you would building a normal 50 card deck?
Man, I'm like the wrong person to ask this because I don't follow any ratios for anything I do. It just kind of goes off what feels right. I will say you want at least like 4 or 5 space units because space units are actually really good in draft and sealed because there's generally not a lot of them and people don't draft them for sure. But like it's hard to like hit units in space if you don't have any like direct hand removal or anything like that, and your decks are significantly less consistent because you're not running 3 ofs generally, and you're sealed or draft. So space units are actually something you need to consider. But also, like, you generally want at least half your deck, probably more than half your deck, to be like units. Although that might change with this set, depending on the upgrades.
Yeah, because now you have bounties, right? Now we have bounties that come into play here. And depending on what bounties you get. So, for example, if you get the Lover's Quarrel, and I know it's not called that, but if you get the Bounty Hunter's Quarry bounty, and you're running green, that's a great card because it just lets you tutor for 1 cost. You got to kill a unit, which you're going to do anyway, and you get to tutor a card, like out into the table. Like it's stupid value in draft. But I don't think that's a common card. I think that one's an uncommon. Actually, I've opened 3 pre-release kits and not had one of those, so it might even be a rare. The next one is Smuggle fills in the gap for filling out your deck. So essentially, Smuggle is, if you have a lot of Smuggle stuff, they told us specifically, Smuggle is designed to help you not figure out what you want to resource. In draft, this is super, super important. I will tell you, Scanning Officer is a thing, though. I like my Scanning Officer, but in draft and sealed, if you only got one of them and you're not going to run green, it's not worth it. But Smuggle cards are so much more prevalent in this set that people it will make it easier for you to do. And I'll give an example. L337 is great as a Smuggle, especially because later in the game she can come out and uncapture a unit. So she's really good as a smuggled unit. in this format.
Honestly, L3 is like one of my favorite cards for draft or sealed, period.
Yeah. Well, that's funny because that's funny because there's maybe a deck that has L337 as an offsuit color that I might be playing. So, that kind of leads us into the next thing. Offsuit cards need to be above the card curve to be included. So, for example, if you get the double red Rancor and you're not playing red at all, don't put the stupid double Rancor. You don't need a 10 cost Rancor. Same with Jabba's Rancor. If you're not playing Jabba and you're not playing green villain, you probably don't want to pay 10 for a Rancor. You probably are. If you get to 10 resources, kudos to you. Usually my games in draft and sealed end a lot quicker than that because there isn't as much trading of like there isn't as many events and different things, and you either trade units or do damage to base. That's it. So, and then the last one is a reminder: you can include 3 or more cards in your deck of any one type. If you draft
literally whatever you drafted or opened, you can put in there.
Yep. So if you get 7 McClunkies, you can put 7 McClunkies in your deck if that's what you would like to do.
I know one of my buddies ended up with like 4 snowtrooper lieutenants, I think.
Yep.
And I definitely had like 4 cell block cards in my deck before.
Yep. I had 3 of the super laser techs. My first draft that I ever actually did with Vader. I ran Vader, baby. I had like 2 TIE fighters, 3 of those things. It was just so much easier to just pick that. All right. Now, if we talk a little bit about draft, and I think I want to talk about draft. I find draft to be a little bit better of a play style than sealed. I do like sealed. I enjoy draft better because draft is like you either win or you lose. There is 0 in between. Like you either know what you're doing and you build a good deck, or you play Thrawn. There you go. That's what I gotta say. So overall, I like draft better personally. Sealed is more consistent though, and people do like sealed. But we're gonna talk about draft because I think draft is it will be a strategy. The theory is that AM or FFG is going to be releasing larger wave sets more often, supposedly. So even if your store only got, let's say, 60 or 70 boxes, hopefully they're going to be getting more boxes in the next month to 2 months, and you'll be able to start playing some of these draft things. I will tell you, if I find boxes in the wild, I am 100% buying them and saving them for draft experiences. And Alex didn't do this. We all went to Adepticon together, and he had brought a box with him, and then we never did the draft. And we should have, because that would have been really fun. More fun than even playing some of the games that we were playing out there.
I still have that box.
So we can still draft it? Oh, there we go then. Sounds like we need to draft, baby.
Sealed. Sealed is my favorite format of this game.
No, we will talk about
I
sealed.
like more than constructed.
You like it more than constructed? Well,
yeah.
Fair enough. We will be talking about sealed in just a minute. So let's stick with the draft and say, hey, what are some of the strategies that you got to look out for, right? So obviously with draft, you're passing cards back and forth. You got to watch, what do people's leaders? That's the one rule that I believe you have to put both your leaders or all 3 of your leaders in front of you. And I have found if you pay attention, people will kind of move the one leader that they're like more focusing towards sometimes, and they'll like touch it more. So if you're like very big individuals, you could kind of pay attention to what people are doing. But a lot of what you have to do is, what do people have? Are people all does everybody have 2 villains on the board? You probably should start drafting some rebels then, or some hero stuff, because you're probably going to get a lot of it. Another tip that I would say is draft for a few colors to ensure that you don't get boxed out of a suit, because that happened to me. I drafted and then just had like the whole first round was just terrible. Like I couldn't get consistency across the board. And then by the second one, everybody had been kind of locked into their color, and there was enough variability that I couldn't get the 1 or 2 things I needed, and I ended up with a very mediocre Leia deck. It was fun, but it was just a very mediocre because I couldn't get any synergies to help itself out. Another tip is to understand what others are drafting and take bombs if given the opportunity. So we didn't do this for set 1. We will talk about some of the really good cards here in a few minutes for set 2. be prepared to understand like what is a really good card, and if you see your opponents are taking certain types of cards, don't give them the bomb. And sometimes it's okay to draft one card that's a bomb card that you know that your opponent next to you wants. And maybe that's just me being too competitive. Maybe that's just like Tanner saying I want to be more competitive at this than other people do. But I have drafted like cards that I won't play that I know are just really good in other decks. So for example, when I learned Jin loves to play what are those rogue operatives or whatever that come in, when I learned that that's what people play, if somebody sitting next to me or around the table has a Jin and I see those, I take them. Unless there's some card I really need, I take that so they can't have that stupid thing. Because that thing is, Jin is a monster in draft. Holy crap. Will I get lucky? Do you think I'll get lucky? Will Hondo be a monster in draft?
You need smuggle cards.
All right. Let's keep moving. I will tell you, traditionally, legendaries will slow you down. Don't take them unless you need them for your deck. I only say that tongue in cheek because people are going to take the cards that are worth money. So that's whatever. I will tell you, the best draft I ever had was when I passed all the legendaries up and built a Sabine deck and won, hands down, just the whole tournament because I built a Sabine deck and I didn't care about the legendaries. But the last point I have, if you're not receiving many cards for your leader, you need to rethink your strategy. But I think that's kind of common sense. But you need to be paying attention to that. And you can look at the cards in front of you. You can pick them up. You can go, okay, hey, what are these ones? You could say, hey, these are the what I set aside. I have sometimes put mine into two piles, like hero and villain. Sometimes I put different colors in piles, and people don't know what colors they are, so it doesn't really matter. But that way, I've done things that help me remember so that I don't accidentally draft a bunch of stuff I don't need. So let's move on to sealed strategies. Alex, what are some sealed specific strategies?
Man, you want me to read the template you got up there, or just my opinion here?
I don't care, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. So sealed is, you get 6 packs. If you're doing pre-release, you do get the 2 leaders that are like from the starter pack. First, that was Vader and Luke. This one's Moff Gideon and Mandalorian. And basically, you make a 30-card deck, right? So much like draft, you can like kind of sculpt what you're getting, but you have all the information at once. So like draft might be like specific hyper focus on certain stats. Sealed is basically entirely what you can build. So yeah, just make sure. I mean, a lot of what I do is like set out a grid. Here's all my hero units separated by color. Here's all my neutral units separated by color. Here's all my villain units separated by color. Just like look whichever ones you have really large pools of, because that's like your most versatile. See if you have a bunch of cards that you want to play. See if they match up with a particular leader. You're going to end up getting 6 leaders, and technically any base. It doesn't matter the bases you have. You're supposed to have access to every single color base, so that shouldn't matter. So it's really which 2 colors you think are best. I think honestly the hero and villain choice has much more impact than your color choices, because if you don't get any like good villain cards and you want to play a villain leader, then you're not doing too well. There's a lot of really good specific cards for heroes and villains. So that's just generally how I do it. Just I like the grid based aspect of it. Just kind of choose which ones you want. And you can like switch it off as well. For sealed events or like especially like pre-release events, you can swap out cards between rounds. If you're just like, well, this deck isn't working too well, I'm gonna swap out a couple cards here and there. Or if you're wild, you just swap your entire deck out, which some people have done at sealed events. So,
yeah, you can you swap your leader and your base?
I mean, it's technically like a casual event, right? So it's just literally swap anything else you want. Like, there's no deck lists.
Fair enough. So I guess if you wanted to, you could run a Thrawn deck, to begin with, and then say, nah, I'm gonna switch to my Krennic deck.
Yep.
Which is what I probably should have done last time, right? Another thing is like Alex said, like taking the time to sort is so important, though. Like that's just like a huge thing, is understanding how do you want to sort, what grid do you want to build. Like Alex and I probably build a very similar grid, but we probably have a little bit differences. Like I always separate um by quantity first, right? The number on the card first. That's what I do, and then I sort by villain and hero and neutral, and then I count my neutrals, I count my villains, I count my heroes, and then I make decisions based on card pool count size. And then after that, then I look at, what is their theme? Like, for example, did I get a lot of underworld stuff? It was 80% of my deck underworld. Well, I'm probably gonna, if I got Cad Bane, I'm probably running Cad Bane. Is 80 like, did you get Zuckuss and Forlon both? Well, maybe you're running, maybe you'll run a job of the deck if you got both of those in your sealed packs. I don't know, but that's one of the bigger things when it comes to drafting and sealed. What I want to do now, I think, is why don't we move on to Alex's kind of, we're gonna call them good, bad, and indifferent ratings. So Alex has very kindly given us some information. We gave some examples in there of why we didn't do it for every single card, because that's a lot of work.
I
But
could have, but I did it for like the leaders specifically, and then like if a legendary is worth like building a deck into.
yes, exactly. And so that's kind of, you don't want to, you want to understand that, like, if we could do that for everything. I just don't know how much value it brings people. Like, how much are people going to pull a guide out when they sit down? The better thing is watch our video, give us a like and subscribe, share it with your friends, and then go have fun. That's what I would say. Like, go actually have fun playing the event, and don't worry about what Tanner and Alex say. We're here to help you have a good time, so that you don't build a deck where you just don't do anything. Like my nephew, for example, who built a deck with, I don't know, no 2 drops and 3 drops. So he had nothing to play at all for 2 rounds. So yeah.
Don't want it, don't need it.
Yep. Oh, round 4, I could play an aggression, but hey, baby, I can't do anything else. So I don't know. So let's start with the leaders.
Yeah, so I just put them into like, hey, these are good. Hey, these are like, I wouldn't say terribly good. And then other ones are like, these are fine. But if you have what they need, like, like Mando, right? If you have a lot of upgrades, then he becomes good. But if you don't, like, they're okay at best, right? So, like, what I think would be pretty good, for sealed or well, this is more so for like drafting. I mean, it's applicable to both.
There you go.
But like, I built these with like more drafting in mind. So like, I think like Garsthaxon, Rey, Jabba, Boba, Han, and Fennec are like really good ones. In this sheet, you'll see some with asterisks. That's actually, those are just rare leaders. That's what that means. If you check out our sheet. But I think like Garsaxon, because he's got that passive buff and he's able to recur cards in your deck, that's really, really strong. That Restore 3 on Rey will just win games on its own. I think the Jabba with like the capture and being able to play cheaper units is good. Like Han being able to play cheaper units is good. I think like Boba, just passive, there's enough keywords that like it actually comes into play. And I think Fennec is just hard to deal with in like a sealed or draft, because you don't know what she has in her hand, because any card in her hand could just come out and kill your units. And I think she's good at controlling the board, and there's not a lot of counterplay in sealed and draft.
Yeah.
What I think bad units are, well, bad leaders. By bad, I mean like probably not what you want. Like, I don't think Finn is that good, just because it's a very finicky kind of thing, pun intended. Hunter, same thing. I actually put Bosk in here. He might be more leaning towards okay than bad. It's just like he's so dependent on bounties. So if you don't draft or you don't get a lot of bounties and they're not all in the same color, like Bozzik isn't really doing much. And then like Afra, just because like you're already running a 30 card deck and you're self milling, and there's not a lot of discard cards, and it's like cool. Kylo's silencer is a legendary card there, right? So it's not very. That's not going to help much.
Well, it's funny too if you think about it. It's almost like we need a card for Afra that says this cannot be removed from the board, and whenever you take damage to your base, they take damage to their base from milling cards. Like that's like a card I could see it coming into Afra's pool. But when you only have 30 cards, I don't want to throw any cards ever away. Ever.
Right.
Ever.
So then I have like ones under like, well, these need very specific cards like Hero with Grit, Hondo with Smuggle, but I think like he's decent set enough to be okay. He leans more towards bad than he'd be okay. But like Bo-Katan with the Mandos, Cad Bane with the Underworlds, Lando with the Smuggle mechanics again. I think they're all okay, but if you have those cards, they're great. Kylo Ren as a leader, like if you have a low curve on your deck, he can be pretty strong. If you don't, I wouldn't take him because you're just kneecapping yourself. And the same thing with like Mandalorian, right? You need very specific cards, and Moff Gideon, he's okay. Like there's nothing particularly special about him.
Yeah, I think Moth. I feel Moth fills. I think Moth can go into the good category. Like that's one I would say. You're right. It has nothing specifically special. Just needs lower units or lower cost units, which we get a lot of those. I think Moth is a better choice over Mando in that yellow category. If
I agree.
If you're just looking for ease ability to play.
And like if you look at our list here, it's actually not by like the top ones are better. It's literally just by like card number. So don't
Yes.
think those are rankings.
Yep, we are definitely not we are not getting that granular.
Yeah.
Let's move on to legendaries.
You know, I don't have on here is Kylo Shuttle, but I put it in good or the silencer. So like,
yeah.
So legendaries, you're not going to get a lot, right? In 6 packs, you might get one. Occasionally, you'll get 2. Most of the time, like you'll get most of the time you'll just get none. So what I kind of made here was legendaries. These things you can like. This influences what color deck you're going to be playing because like they're that good. Like I think Snoke is incredible. And he's very good in like a drafter sealed because man, he just when you drop him, the passive -2/-2. He just finishes games, right? So I think he's good. Finalizer, I don't think is particularly great because you're getting up to 11 resources in a sealed game, and that means you like also kept Finalizer in your hand the whole time, unless you drew it super late. It hits really hard. You know, being 11, like your opponent's probably not going to kill it, but I think it just comes a little bit too late in the game. So for good cards, I would say, I guess Kylo Silencer is just a solid ship in general. But Snoke, I think Ray unit, Mandalorian unit, the Dark Saber doesn't necessarily have to go on a Mandalorian. You know, it's just the stats on that's great. Kylo unit, Poe unit, and the Crate Dragon. What I don't think is particularly good is Finalizer. Endless Legions, obviously. I think like Drayden Voss and like Final Showdown really is a little bit too risky. Drayden Voss and DJ are a little bit too niche, so I don't like them. I put them in the bad. And then like okay, it's like cool. Second Chance is fine. You know, if you have like a good expensive unit and like if you have some really strong units, it's fine. But if you don't, you know, you don't generally play a lot of double aspect cards in sealed and draft as well, so that kind of hinders things. And like Rule with Respect and Evacuate are pretty niche, but you can actually like kind of use them.
You don't build a deck around them, right? It's just
right.
If you're building a yellow deck or a green deck, you would play them.
Yeah. The other ones, like I would choose a red deck if I have Great Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
So
Or
Darksaber's
Poe.
a little bit different because it depends on how many Mandalorians you're drafting, but like I think it's just a solid card.
Yeah, for 4 costs, it's a great upgrade. And I mean, so the question is, if you have Gar Saxon and the Dark Saber, do you just say I'm going to run a Gar Saxon deck then because
Yeah,
the Dark
I,
Saber on him just like makes it?
I would say if you have like a Darksaber, definitely consider running Gar Saxon or like Mandalorian or Bo-Katan because you can always just put it on them, even if you don't have any other Mandalorians. You should draft or put in some more Mandalorians because there's a lot of them. But if you don't have them, like it's still running.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to some rares.
Yeah.
A lot more cards here.
Well, yeah, it's gonna get more and more. But basically, legendaries you don't plan on getting. Rares you're going to get one in every pack. Whether they're particularly good or not is questionable. But I like First Light, just give everyone grit, right? I think Chewbacca unit is awesome. Just a takedown with a body that's super troublesome to your opponent to deal with. I liked Imprison because you can shut off some really strong abilities with that. Um, I think Mandalorian armor it might be the best rare.
Mhm.
um, if you have Mandalorian cards, because man, that just +1/+3 with the shield is disgusting for 2. Evidence of the Crime, I think, is good. Just passively taking upgrades. I think Maul, Palpatine's Return, General Recan, just being able to get shields or Sentinels, sorry, to like turn things into Sentinels or give them experience. Inspiring Mentor, Cobb Vanth, Legal Authority, Choose Sides, all these control cards and buffing cards. Django, Wrecker, Heroic Resolve, Bazine, Kira, Zoribris, Kragan, and Tech. Great for the audio listeners, I'm sure, but like just download the sheet. Basically, anything that I think is good is single aspect because double aspect again is pretty hard to do. Has some sort of immediate impact on the board, and because they're rare, you're not looking for consistency. You're looking to like make a play, um, or like have like Palpatine's Return where you just recur things. You have any thoughts? Do you think there's anything questionable there,
In the okay category,
or the good category?
I think in the good category, the only one I'm a little concerned with is Cobb Vanth. I think he's okay. I guess he's okay. That's I see him more as an okay thing.
Really?
Um, yeah, and I only say that I understand the logic behind it, and I guess if you are playing a lot of lower cost units, it does work out. But I found that I feel in drafted sealed he's more circumstantial personally than some of the other ones. I would agree with you on Maul, and I feel bad I should tell you no on the General Recan, but like yeah, that's like and I think that guy once he comes down, if you don't take him off the board right away, it's just
I mean, he is a
really good.
5/7 body as well.
Yeah. He's actually I think he's one of the units I'm a lot higher on um overall period.
Yeah, I think he's insane.
Yeah, and I would actually say Bazine is in a category of herself. Like she is in the you include even in an offsuit because she has hand removal and in a sealed and draft format, like we're in this limited format. I mean, can you imagine being able to play her even for 4 to say whatever you're going to have is gone?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, and they still redraw the card on other cards. So like, if they don't have particularly incredible cards when you play her,
Sure. Then it doesn't
it
matter.
can backfire a little bit. I think it's actually less good in sealed and draft than it is in constructed.
Mm,
Well, it's
no, I
hard.
like it. I like it better in limited. I'm sorry, like I do.
It can get rid of bombs, but there's a higher like you're not running that many incredible cards kind
Mhm.
of thing. But also circling back to Cobb Vanth, just anything that puts more units out is generally very good in sealed and draft, just because it's harder for your opponent to deal with.
Yeah.
So that's why I like them a lot.
And the same with I feel that Survivor's Gauntlet is really, really good in limited format. Like I really like that card in limited format. I like the stats on it for its cost, and I like the fact that it can move things around. But
It really depends on what your opponent's playing, though. Or
well,
you like if you have a lot of upgrades, it's a lot better. If you don't, then it's a decently sized spaceship.
yeah. Ex- Except for if they're going to play bounties, I guess, right? Like, so
Right.
you have a harder time removing bounties. This thing will do that. So,
Well, it
it
moves
moves
the bounties
it
like it
moves it
doesn't.
around. Yes.
Yeah. For the bad, because I don't really need to go through the okay. You know,
They're
bad
they're what
Elephant
they are.
Man, not going to do much. Maz, I think, is just not going to do anything like impactful. The Enterprising Lackeys, the Chaos of War, Stolen Land Speeder, Migs, Omega, Let the Wookiee Win, Tobias, Boba Fett's Armor, and Altering the Deal. A lot of these are playing around as a particular strategy, and if you don't have those cards, like for sealed, it's a little bit better, but for draft, like you're not going
Mhm.
to like you don't know what cards other people are going to pass you. With sealed, at least you know your whole like set that you're playing with. So like let the Wookiees wins. Like if you don't have a lot of Wookiees or like you got 4 in your deck, like there's no reason to ever take that card. And I think the Stolen Land Speeder honestly is just a little bit too difficult for you to make plays for it to be worth it.
Yeah. Let me kill it so that I have to give a unit plus pay the cost of it to then bring it back for myself. No, thank you.
Yeah. So and then yeah, I mean like some things like the Enterprising Lackeys, right? They it's just their drawback. It's just a little bit too high. So
Yeah, I would agree. Let's move on to uncommons. Even more, even more.
yeah, so on commons, you're gonna get I believe it's 3 per pack. They're solid, but there's some real good uncommons in this set. So I think like the client is very good in general, and in this game is the shielded, and then healing your own base is so good. Like I want to emphasize how good that card is in sealed and draft. So like client, the Gar-Saxon Gauntlet, Brutal Traditions because it recurs, the Concord Dawn Interceptors, Top Target, Fell the Dragon, Salacious Crumb, Jabba's Rancor. I know you said don't take it without Jabba, but man, that body's huge and hard to deal with, and you're dealing out extra damage.
I'm saying don't take it for 10. For 8,
Oh yes,
yeah,
yes,
for 8, it's fine.
yeah.
100% fine.
The Centauri Peacekeepers, which is just such a silly card. Spark
Mhm.
of Hope, Scanning Officer, Bounty Hunter's Quarry. The Punishing one is just good statted anyways. Gerstansen, Ketsuono, IG-11, Bravado, the Lurking TIE Phantom. He could just be problems. Zuckuss, Frozen and Carbonite, L3. Coruscant Descendant, Spare the Target, A New Adventure, Fennec, and Mercenary Gunship.
Yep, and I would say that Bounty Hunter's Quarry, and L337, both of those are like really high up there on, like, I would take those off offsuits quite a bit. Those are really good cards.
And also notice I have Zuckuss in there and not Forlom. Forlom I think is okay because the 4/4 ambush is fine, but Zuckuss being like a 6/6 on a 5 body with Saboteur is just disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree.
Yeah. So those are just like cards that either will like live longer, have a bonus of some sort, like the client, or like when they die, get another card, or just are very well statted in general, is what those are. Or maybe some like niche control cards, like Frozen and Carbonite. Like if they drop a bomb and you're just like, cool, it's now useless. It just sticks on the board. That can be very strong in these kinds of games or the formats. What I think are Not good cards. Bad cards. Queel. Rose Tico is a little bit too niche. The Armorer, you need a lot of Mandalorians. Midnight Riders, or sorry, Midnight Repairs. Midnight Riders, something different.
Yep.
Midnight Repairs, Remnant Reserves, Freetown Backup, Enforced Loyalty, Head Hunting, the Valiant Assault Ship, Cripple Authority, Bo-Katan, Unlicensed Headhunter, Guild Target, Armed to the Teeth, Bounty Posting, Toro, whatever that guy is. This is the way in Lady Proxima.
Now, I will say, like some of these in here that you have, like if you don't have anything else to fill the spots with, they are okay cards to fill the spots with, but you don't
Yeah,
need them, especially in a draft. You don't need to draft those ones if they're given to you. Sure.
like the armor is kind of on the edge of okay and bad because like the armor can still give herself a shield. It's just like if you don't have a lot of Mandos, you probably don't need to draft the armor.
Exactly.
Or like,
But if she comes back to you at the last thing, you
yeah,
take
like
her.
she's not bad.
No. Same with Rose. Rose is okay for her stats, but you don't draft her and you only use her in sealed as if like you don't build a deck around her in any way, shape, or form. She's just Merry Christmas, you know?
And it's just like Lady Proxima. Just bad. Just strictly bad, I would say. Like 0/4, 1 cost, and it depends on you playing other cards. Like that's why like that's way down there. And some of the bounties too are just like cool. That would be a lot better if I had more of them in my deck, but like one-offs, um, they just don't do enough. um, which you'll see with like a lot of the bounties, they're like, well, are they impactful enough to run them one off in my deck, or should that be a unit so it's not like a dead draw if I have an empty board state? Because
Exactly.
that's like a lot of it is just like you don't want to brick hands at all, and that's how you lose because you just get behind so much on tempo. But you
Yeah.
want to go? Let's go to the commons because those are the most common. Shocker. I mean, these are a majority of what your deck will consist of. So for the good cards, I think like Pike Sentinel, Super Commando Squad, Gentle Giant, the Roshire Tree Tender,
Worcester sauce tree tender.
the Nima Outpost Constables is actually just quite annoying in these things, being that 2/6 Sentinel. I think Convert Strength is an underrated card. Rivals Fall, which is at common.
Mhm.
Clone Disorder, Modded Cohort, Warzone Lieutenant, Discerning Veteran, Timely Intervention, Take Captive, Guavian Antagonizer, Desperado Freighter, Clan Challengers, Covetous Rivals, Daring Raid, Detention, Block Rescue, Cartel Turncoat, Cloud Rider, Fugitive Wookiee, Chain Code Collector, Resourceful Pursuers, Look the Other Way, Black Sun Starfighter, Hunt's Henchman, and Smuggler's Aid. I know you were kind of down on some of these, but I think a lot of them are a lot better in like Draft and Sealed, like those the Hunt's Henchmen, right?
Mhm.
They're a 3/4 shielded unit.
Yep.
They're
There it
okay. They're actually pretty solid in the Gar Saxon deck, but that's about it.
but they're
Um,
really good in draft and sealed,
yeah,
especially if you get
stickiness.
2 of them because they don't go away.
Yeah, sticking like sticky units are huge in sealed and draft. Things like that are shielded or reduce damage somehow, whatever, are very very good.
Yeah. Like those cartel turncoats. I don't think any of us like that shit, but I'll tell you what, when you're sitting down at a board and going through your drafted sealed and you're like, I got 3 of these. I think I might go ahead and play that type of a deck because they're just that good in this format.
Oh, I like the cartel turncoats outside of sealed
Yeah.
and draft as well. Because I think it's just the 1 cost 2/3 body with the downside of your opponent drawing a card is worth it.
Yeah. I think timely intervention is something that a lot of people don't like. That card is great if you have to play that suit, but that card is really good because
Oh,
you
just
just
resource it right when you
yeah,
get it, and then you're just like at the perfect time, just ambush whatever you need out.
yeah.
It's so good. For the bad cards that I would not really draft or put in your deck unless you really had to, the rickety quad jumper, as much as that hurts me, it's just not good.
It's a horrible
Just a hawk. The Hawk 290 is just a 2/5 space body. Cool. Public Enemy, Foundling, Vamprace Grapple Shot, Warbird Stowaway, Collection Starhopper, The Weequay Pirate Gang, Outflank, Moment of Glory, Heroic Renegade, Reckless Gunslinger, The Rokai Gunship, Death Mark, Pillage, Smuggler Starfighter, Wanted, Twin Pod Cloud Car, and the Street Game Recruiter.
So I will say the only one I really disagree with is that Reckless Gunslinger. I actually think that's better than a bad card. Not as an
Okay.
offsuit, but I think as if you for what it is worth, it does that extra damage. It's like a free baby Sabine. So I actually like that card because you could smuggle it as well. So
Sure, it's just I know it doesn't seem like it has enough of an impact, honestly. Um, I don't know. It's just the 2/1 body. I it's probably like between okay and bad. Honestly, I just looking at it like a 2/1 for one is fine. Deal 1 damage to each base though. Smuggle, sure, okay,
yeah,
sure.
I will say I will say twin pod cloud car. How many of those are you gonna get in that? So like you should count. So folks, if you're watching this and you're playing in sealed and draft events, count how many of these damn things you get and report back to us. I just want to know.
And then send him to JJ.
And send them to JJ. JJ will play every one of them. Like I hate that card so much. I'm sorry, I don't like that card.
But it's a 2/2 for 3.
And you get a restore.
Hmm.
No, thank you. You know
Yes,
when the restore. I guess is it a is it a
it's on
uh,
attack.
no, I know, but is it a space unit or a ground unit?
Space.
Okay, so I guess stocks go up a micro fraction because it's a space unit and it gives you another space unit to play. That's about
Yeah,
it. Don't draft
yeah.
it.
I mean, I would just forego having that ship though. If uh, mm, like even if I'm like, well, I need space units, I'm probably not going to take the twin pod cloud car.
Yeah, it's just in my opinion, it's trash tier. Like I don't understand why they made that card. That's like,
If it was like a 2/3, it'd be fine. This is the
yep,
2/2 that kills me.
yeah, because anything kills it. Anything kills it before it can even restore your base. Um,
It's great for your opponent to put bounties on.
yep,
But yeah, so those are just kind of like a real quick and dirty. These are cards that I would say that you should draft and or put in your sealed deck. Mostly just look out for things. You want your common cards to be like decently statted or have Sentinel. Because Sentinel's huge in that. You want your uncommon cards to have like good stats and like start supporting other things. Your rares is kind of what you want them to have an immediate impact on the board. You want to be able to play these, and then your legendaries are kind of like what you build a deck around.
yeah,
That's a good summation.
yeah. And I think what we'll do is I was gifted some pre-release kits. So I'm going to make a video where we take the principles that we just talked about and I'm going to deconstruct a pre-release kit and I'll video record it and hopefully it'll look good enough. I have 3 webcams, so we're going to try to make this work. And see if I can get it to work. And we're gonna make a video where we go through the actual process. So everything Alex and I have talked about tonight, we're gonna go through. Um, and what we'll do is I'll put a specific part 2 video out to this academy training, and so I'll segment this out, and then I'll put another part 2 out and kind of link the 2 of them together for you. And you know what, I got plenty of time this week. I'll figure out a time. I actually have no time this week, but I'll figure out a time and I'll get it recorded because I do have some pre-release kits that were gifted to the show, and I'm going to go ahead and I'll open one of those on camera and do that. And maybe if we have enough time, maybe I'll open a second one and send it to Alex and have him build the deck, and maybe we'll play each other. I don't know. Right now, all of it's going to depend with a holiday week this week. It's going to be really hard, I think, to get a lot of that. But I promise you, I promise you, there will be a part 2 video that you can watch that is related to this video coming up. With that being said, thank you everybody for joining us for this Academy training where we talk about drafting and sealing strategy wise, talk about the cards for Shadows of the Galaxy and what it is and how you can be successful at it.